Thank you for the opportunity to improve on these great efforts that the CFPB has already implemented. We've seen the progress from the original Humda implementation of submission, and we see that there's a lot of improvement already. And so we're just going to be offering some tips today. And I also want to thank you for being flexible and allowing us to switch tracks. We are now where we belong in this track, so we appreciate that too. So today we're going to talk about change notification tracking for the CFPB's Humda portal and the APIs. I'm joined with myself. I'm Sarah Hill. I manage our government relations here at Wolters Kluwer, and Mindy Marchetti, the senior product manager for the Wiz family of products. So we're the makers of the CRA Wiz, Humda Wiz family of products. You might be familiar with us. And today we are going to talk about the change notification tracking for the CFPB's Humda portal and APIs. We will focus on improving the Humda platform communication, the feedback loop. Key areas of our project will be a change log for the Humda API, communicating implementation and code changes to the interested parties, and reporting will include data sources used for any external data and versioning information on the tools used as well. So some of our current pain points here as stakeholders that use the Humda portals or use the Humda APIs is that the changes to the Humda filing portal and updates to the APIs are not easily identifiable. Changes are not always updated in the FIG, forcing vendors and reporters to comb through the code to find updates. For example, in January of 2021, an edit was changed, the V695 edit, and there was no notification about this change. This was for the Humda filing season that was happening prior to March 1st, 2021. Since vendors have to adhere to some specific development lifecycle standards and change management requirements, some vendors are also may not be able to integrate with the CFPB's APIs, so they rely on published guidance from the CFPB to make software updates. And reporters that are submitting their Humda LAR may not have They have no transparency to any changes that were made to the Humda portal. And the key thing that, another thing that we want to kind of point out here is that updates made in January that are required for that year's submission are extremely challenging for vendors to implement. Just a little piece about the software development lifecycle, specific to regulatory change. We actually support two types of products. We have an installed on-premises product, and we have a web-based or SaaS-based application. And I know that in the industry, there are a variety of these, and sometimes even like a collaboration potentially of multiple situations. For installed products, there's releases that are generally semi-annual. This is very less agile development. To respond to regulatory change, updates must be installed by financial institutions. And some of the larger institutions require lengthy testing cycles, deployments to multiple lower environments before production updates. And then a key thing here too is the end of code freezes and CRA and Humda submission season environment freezes make it challenging to install software updates after mid-November of the previous year. So there's a lot of code freezes that happen around mid-November. So if we're not able to deploy something by that time, they aren't able to deploy until after the submission season. Now, the web-based applications do have more frequent releases, monthly, quarterly. They do have a more agile development and can respond to regulatory change quicker. And there is a reduced risk of the Humda and CRA submission season production environment freeze, but that total time still does take 3 weeks to a month. So it is still a lengthy time period that we need to utilize in order to implement some of those changes. So some ways that I think that we can implement something that is already being used currently by the CFPB. Currently, there's a way to sign up for regulatory implementation changes. And we are recommending the CFPB implement a communication channel for the API changes and Humda portal updates that's similar to their updates about regulatory implementation. So similar to the way you can sign up through email here for the subscriptions, for the regulatory implementation. Likewise, we'd have something similar for the actual API changes or the portal changes. We're also suggesting a changelog page that will be added to include any API updates and changes. And email updates will allow you to sign up for those email notifications when the changelog has been updated or changes have been made to the APIs. And then a contact us. This would allow for a feedback loop back to the CFPB without having to access GitHub. For example, if somebody wanted to make suggestions for new edits, field aggregations, pieces like that, this would be a great way for us to be able to provide that feedback without having to access the very technical areas of GitHub. On the Humda filing platform, a notification link will allow a reporter or an interested party to that documentation. This link would include recent changes to the Humda filing platform, a timeline for any regulatory updates that may happen so that people can prepare in advance. Availability for that year's specific year's filing. So when the platform is available, for example, if it's available January 1st for that filing year, then you'll be able to see that that's available and that you're not necessarily using that beta platform for testing. Beta changes that will be updated to the portal will be identified there as well. And then if the CFPB does intend to put on a service level agreement for filing times, I think this would be a great opportunity for them to display that service level agreement there. As part of the changelog details for the Humda portal, the things that we'd like to see in that changelog would be visual graphical indicators of the APIs affected. Those detailed description of the changes. Anytime we can reference back to the FIG or the Financial Institutions Guide, when you can do that, that would be really helpful. Date and timestamp of change so that we can easily identify something that has changed. Also, activity or that's applicable, and an environment flag, whether it's in production, if it's in beta, or both.
This is just your 8th mark. You still have plenty of time.
Great, thanks. So we have here a sample of the changelog. This would really I kind of identify some of the areas that we'd really like to see the CFPB implement. For example, the type of change that it is. We have a couple examples here, features or enhancements. Also any references, compliance impacts, the timeline when that's going to happen, any documentation updates, and then a clear summary of that change, not necessarily code, but the actual description of what that change is going to be. Now, what this does is it enhances the CFPB's email communications for the Humda portal and APIs. It's creating an email channel for stakeholders that don't speak the language of the technology and allows for plain language communication of those changes. It also allows for subject matter experts to provide input to the CFPB's tools. I think there's a lot of value that we can provide there. Also, change logs and versioning will provide transparency that's consumable by everyone.